G'day guys. Even those who consider themselves relatively out of the loop would have seen all the controversy surrounding the release of Hogwarts Legacy. Such is the power of the Harry Potter franchise even 10 years after the release of the last film, and longer again since the release of the Deathly Hallows novel, it is still hugely relevant in the minds of the pop culture punter.
Harry Potter? Harry Potter? Come on.
Despite the game enjoying relative success in terms of sales, streams, and player numbers, there is a large shadow cast over the title at release. But what is it all about? Why is a portion of the internet very upset about the release of a game set in the world of Harry Potter, widely enjoyed by all ages and at everyone's entry level? So much so that you have review sites saying things like, Hogwarts Legacy does not deserve to be reviewed on its own merits, and even sites like IGN afraid to even touch the game. Well, there is a little bit more to this story than just the average internet outrage, but in its simplest terms, some people are unhappy with J.K. Rowling due to some statements she made about sex and gender back in 2020, which we all know is a rather sensitive subject even to this day. And because J.K. Rowling is the author of the Harry Potter series and owns the trademark, despite having very little to no involvement in the upcoming game, she stands to profit from the release. Before I go any further, I'm not a believer in trigger warnings, but I appreciate that this topic can get spicy real quick. As a result, I'll do my best to play it with a straight bat, state the facts from both sides, and clearly define when I'm offering my own opinion on something. Righto, let's do it. In researching the topic, it didn't take me long to find comments on social media accusing JK of being a TERF.
A what?
Which I had to look up the meaning of. And for the record, it means a person whose views on gender identity are considered hostile to transgender people or who opposes social and political policies designed to be inclusive of transgender people. Continuing down this line of research, it didn't take me long to find comments that were threatening a little bit more of a kinetic effect against her. So, what did J.K. Rowling actually say to upset so many people? Judging by the reactions I've seen, it had to be something pretty controversial. After some quick investigationing, the controversy appears to have started in earnest on the 7th of June 2020, when J.K. Rowling retweeted a DevX opinion piece and took issue with the gender-neutral language in the piece.
Only women bleed.
Naturally, her comments were met with calm and measured discussion by the good folk of Twitter.
Don't commit your hate crimes here! Hate crime!
This is where the story takes a little bit of a hard right turn in terms of stuff we've seen before. Normally, in the face of such opposition on social media, after a hot take, quote unquote, people will walk back their comments, fall on their sword and apologise, as we've seen on countless other occasions. But not in this instance. J.K. Rowling, being an author and a student of the school of words have meaning, doubled down on her statement with a series of follow-up tweets elaborating on her point of view.
It's an old-fashioned hole digging. By gar, it's been a while.
Naturally, taking a hard line of her opinion in the face of such staunch opposition only sow further division between her and elements of the LGBTQIA+ community whom appear to be the ones most upset by her comments, despite her concessions and the fact that she has herself been an advocate of the community in the past.
Dumbledore being gay.
I thought you were going to ask something completely. Yeah, go on.
Dumbledore being gay.
Yeah. Well,
was that something that was just thrown out for the American press to get them stirred up a bit? No.
So it did.
No, it did, which is obviously was very funny. But
yeah, but I found people's reaction to that really interesting.
Offering a piece of my own opinion before we dive a little deeper, if J.K. Rowling had expressed these views as a layperson or everyday punter, I imagine these comments would have been forgotten quicker than Peeves in the Warner Brothers Harry Potter films.
Who? Oh, I'm Peeves, Potter, and you better watch out for me.
But due to her status and the fact that she has previously extended an olive branch to the LGBTQIA+ community in her own work, Dumbledore is gay by the way, this was seen as an attack from within rather than an opinion by a member that was worthy of discussion. I'm going to touch on the problems with discussions like this later and how many perceive them in context of the pop culture war. But for now, just keep in mind that JK, up until this point, had been viewed as a, let's say, soft ally of the LGBTQIA+ community. Shortly after the first exchange on Twitter, J.K. Rowling returned with a little bit more to say on the topic via her website, with an essay entitled J.K. Rowling Writes About Her Reasons for Speaking Out on Sex and Gender Issues, which was shared to her Twitter with the tagline, Turf Wars. I'll link this essay below so that you can check it out in due course should you choose. However, in the essay she outlined why she felt the way she felt, and how her interactions online with members of the LGBTQIA+ community, both the good and the bad interactions, but namely folks from the trans branch, coupled with her lived experience and research, had led her to her conclusions. With comments disabled on the Twitter post, various retweets had some rather harsh things to say about her essay, including calling it a transphobic manifesto. I won't go over it line by line, and as I said, I encourage you to check it out for yourself rather than taking my word for it, but the essay didn't really lack nuance as such, despite being highly subjective and personal, and it certainly doesn't deserve to be likened to Mein Kampf. In fact, J.K. Rowling highlighted that she hadn't reacted well to the online pushback that she'd received in the wake of her comments, including accidentally retweeting some foul language at a child.
So you want collateral damage, huh? Who the fuck are you? I give you fucking collateral damage.
Oh dear.
Although I can see how the essay upset some people, particularly given that it gives no quarter on her stance, which is understandable given her past, and how, in previous examples featuring this subject, those that have been challenged on the matter have stood down or been cancelled. Although, while I'm on the subject, one comment in particular struck a chord with me. While you're well within your rights to be upset about whatever you want to be upset about, forbidding others from exploring a full argument by fear-mongering is pretty poor form. I don't want to sound like Emperor Palpatine, but
If one is to understand the great mystery, one must study all its aspects.
there is never just one side to an argument, and both sides need to be explored if one is to make a rational and informed decision on the matter. That said, no one is without bias, J.K. Rowling and myself included, but there is a difference between facts and opinions, and denying facts or other people's opinions because that opinion differs to your own is quite literally gatekeeping.
And that is a fact.
No, that's your opinion. It's the definition of an opinion.
Well, that's your opinion.
This denial of information becomes a bit of a theme as the conflict progresses, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised after all.
All warfare is based on deception.
An important footnote in this story, one of the first people to come to J.K. Rowling's defence after her comments was Anthony Robert Macmillan.
I'm looking for a submarine. It's big and black and the driver is a very good friend of mine.
aka Robbie Coltrane, or more affectionately known as
Hagrid!
Keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts.
Robbie's comments are that of a quintessentially grumpy old man, which he self-identified.
I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. I shouldn't have said that.
But his inclusion in this will become important a little bit later. So that's where all this started, but where does it lead? Well, it leads to a subject that we bloody love talking about on this channel. That's right, the topic of review bombing and politics in pop culture. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little bit sick of the term review bombing, because in 90% of cases, it seems that the product in question that's getting review bombed, quote unquote, isn't actually being review bombed, it's just getting reviewed. And the reviews in question reflect that the product is bad. The only difference between review bombing and actual reviewing is that for some reason, the mainstream and access media have decided that whatever the particular product is, needs protection. This is likely due to contemporary politics in Hollywood and a fear of cancellation, but as we've seen previously, anyone with an element of grey matter can tell when they're being fed a well-rehearsed narrative versus the truth at the ground level.
Wallet inspector.
Oh, here you go. I believe that's all in order.
I can't believe that worked.
Hey, that's not the wallet inspector.
In the case of Hogwarts Legacy, it was decided very early on in the socio-political sphere that the game was problematic. Before I elaborate, can we all agree that Harry Potter is a cultural phenomenon, and in terms of pop culture iconography, it is up there with Star Wars and The Lord of the Rings? And when I say that, I mean normies, quote unquote, know what it is, and the merchandise reflects that. It is still everywhere, and the last film came out 10 years ago. So as early as 2020, following the first Hogwarts Legacy announcement trailer, and in the same year that J.K. Rowling announced her views on biological sex and gender, a preemptive strike was made against Hogwarts Legacy on the socio-political front. Almost overnight, many articles were discussing a divided fan base and raising questions of whether or not supporting Avalanche's upcoming title meant supporting J.K. Rowling and, by extension, making you a TERF or a phobe. On the 24th of September 2020, an article published by Polygon took it a step further, all but drawing up the battle lines for the war to come.
I say we kill the beast!
We're not safe until she's dead. She'll come stalking us at night, sent to sacrifice our pronouns to her monstrous appetite. She'll wreak havoc on our Twitter if we let her wander free.
So it's time to take some action, boys. It's time to follow me.
So that's the state of play following the first trailer at the end of 2020. The battle lines had been drawn up between the progressive allies of the LGBTQIA+ community, lobbying for the cancellation of Hogwarts Legacy by Boycott, suggesting that if you stood in opposition, or even just fence-sat the issue, you were a JK-loving TERF.
From a certain point of view.
And everybody else, from casual Hogwarts fan to die-hard Harry Potter fanatic, right the way through to alt-right individuals who are happy to rebel against the leftists at any opportunity.
I rebel.
Here, I got you a gift. It's a mirror, so you can see how dumb you look.
It seems extreme, but this is what happens during a culture war. There can be absolutely no ground given.
You're not with us, you're against us.
2021 began with some big news when on the 5th of March, a senior producer of Hogwarts Legacy, Troy Leavitt, announced that he would be leaving the project. For many, this appeared to be a result of the backlash Leavitt was now receiving in a barrage of Access Media articles accusing him of being anti-social justice and Gamergate adjacent. All of these accusations spawning from his YouTube channel, which he had founded prior to his work at Avalanche Studios but had continued working on since his recruitment. The timing of his departure indeed did seem oddly coincidental, noting the controversy surrounding the game already due to the views of the intellectual property owner, so it's no surprise that the media were quick to capitalise on this eventuality. However, fortunately for us, Leavitt still maintains his YouTube channel. As a result, in a rare turn of events, we were able to get his side of the story of the events surrounding his departure. I'll link the full video below, but here is a brief clip.
So the first thing that I noticed that I thought was interesting about the situation, and maybe a bit concerning, is that there was no instigating incident here. I had no accusations of misconduct, no criminal behavior, no HR scandal. I didn't even issue a mean tweet. The articles that were written were concerned purely with the civil expression of supposedly wrong ideas and opinions from 3 to 5 years ago. So when people ask me, was this cancel culture? Well, to me, it sure feels like it.
Regardless of what he was able to say in his defence, Leavitt's departure and his apparent association with Gamergate and anti-social justice was paraded as proof by the Access Media that Hogwarts Legacy had already been tainted. Firstly and foremost by J.K. Rowling's anti-Semitic and transphobic views, and now Leavitt's right-wing bigotry.
We got him. He's out of the game.
This theme of misinformation, as I alluded to earlier, is a key tactic in the cancel culture strategy, and is akin to the old idiom, if you throw enough mud, eventually some will stick. It works so effectively for a couple of reasons. 1. Despite their best efforts, humans are mostly emotionally driven creatures, and have evolved as a race with a sense of tribal mentality. In order to survive, they must be accepted by the group, lest they become discarded and face the world alone. They therefore respond promptly to emotional manipulation, because no one wants to be associated with a view that will expel them from the safety of the tribe.
I told you those savages couldn't be trusted. Smith tried to befriend them, and look what they've done to him.
So, if a member of the group has expressed a problematic view, or has been identified by others as having done so, that could lead to conflict and erosion of group cohesion, the first primitive instinct is to cast them out before they do just that. Number 2, humans are lazy. I'm not winning awards by stating any of this. Logic is hard, and finding evidence is even harder. So when we read something that tugs at our emotions, we quickly assess its merit based on how it makes us feel. This is fine until the thing that is being said is untrue, which is often the case in sensationalized media. Human laziness is why things like stereotypes exist, because it requires far less energy to reach a conclusion about another if you already have a shorthand for their entire group.
Right in our own neighborhood. Well, it's clear the time has come for me to show you where we hide our guns.
How much signal I need to cut across 8 lane? None? I turn now. Good luck, everybody else!
That's a bloody outrage, it is! I want to take this all the way to the Prime Minister!
Aye, mate. What's the good word?
Here we see a black person eating chicken and watermelon, a stereotype that hurts the African-American community.
Look, a covetous Jew!
Very good, young man. The idea that Jews are only interested in money is very old indeed.
Ah, here's a good one. It's the stereotypical sleepy Mexican.
What? Oh man, what time is it?
Again, part of the tribal mentality that humans have evolved to fit within. By stereotyping others, this gives the group an identity that they can reel against, which then becomes a shorthand to quickly assess whether or not others are the same or represent a threat to the group. A threat being anything that is different or outside the established norm.
Not like you and me, which means they must be evil. We must turn the drums of war.
And because humans are inherently lazy, they will not seek to challenge an opinion of their own group, particularly if that opinion fits within the group's own accepted social dynamics.
Objection!
Because who would risk challenging the opinion of the group when they want to remain a part of that group for safety and protection? As is the case with Hogwarts Legacy. The narrative: Hogwarts Legacy is anti-Semitic and transphobic. Here's the proof. J.K. Rowling is a TERF and the lead designer is a sexist bigot. The reaction: oh, I don't want to be called a TERF or a bigot, therefore I must agree that Hogwarts Legacy is bad. An oversimplification? Perhaps. Over-reliance on tribal mentality? Perhaps again. And I also distinctly lack any degree in human evolution or social studies. However, I'm sure everyone has been guilty of reacting emotively and stereotyping at some point.
Objection!
And it goes a long way to explaining why the discussion around Hogwarts Legacy has been so heated. As I've stated in previous videos, another shortcut humans take in their perception of the world is deriving their existence and understanding based on what they are not. An existence of binary opposition, if you will.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
This is part of the problem with any discourse surrounding the topic of transgender people. On one extreme, you have those saying 1 + 1 = 2, there are only two sexes. And on the other extreme, you have those saying 1 + 1 = X, and you can identify however you like. Sex is merely a societal construct and it doesn't exist. Immediately, you will have conflict between those in favour of science and logic ahead of politics and passion. There is no middle ground in a conversation of this nature. One argument is a logical one, the other is an emotional one. While both have merits depending on their context, they do not traditionally coexist in discussions of this nature.
The world isn't split into good people and Death Eaters. We've all got both light and dark inside of us. What matters is the part we choose to act on. That's who we really are.
But I'll offer my stance on this at the end of the video. Getting back to the topic at hand, there were those who were once considered close allies of J.K. Rowling that came out to speak against her views on such topics. These people, of course, being the ones that owe their careers to J.K. Rowling, being Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint. Their statements is a classic maneuver that is conducted by celebrities to jump on a cause based on how much attention it's getting on Twitter to add their 2 cents worth.
Transgender women are women. Any statement to the contrary erases the identity and dignity of transgender people and goes against all advice given by professional healthcare associations who have far more expertise on this subject matter than either Joe or I. He also added, "It's clear that we need to do more to support transgender and non-binary people, not invalidate their identities and not cause further harm. Just as a human being, I feel compelled to say something at this moment."
This is normally done from a position of total ignorance, which might not necessarily be true in the case of Emma Watson noting her soiree into the field of feminism.
that feminism has become an unpopular word. Women are choosing not to identify as feminist. Why has the word become such an uncomfortable one? That fighting for women's rights has too often become synonymous with man-hating. If there is one thing I know for certain, it is that this has to stop.
However, this is normally done with the guidance of their manager to ensure minimal backlash versus points gained. And if you need an example of this, you need look no further than Rupert Grint, who basically disappeared after the last film ended, only to reappear on this hot topic and basically say, yeah, what she said. Actually, with actions like that, he was probably the perfect choice to play Ronald Weasley.
I'm not asking you to write all of it for me.
Oh, please.
It's just, I've been busy studying for these stupid OWL exams.
I'll do the introduction, that's all.
Hermione, you're honestly the most wonderful person I've ever met.
Although not all were so quick to throw J.K. Rowling under the night bus. Tom Felton, while not necessarily supportive of J.K. Rowling's views necessarily, highlighted that Harry Potter as a franchise had done a lot to bring people together over the 20 years since its inception.
To be honest with you, I'm a little bit out of the loop with the specifics, but I'm constantly reminded, so lucky that Potter, to me, has brought together so many walks of life. Every single country I've ever been to, everyone knows about Potter. So I'm quick to remind myself and others that she was the reason that brought so many different, and continues to bring so many people together, which is a wonderful thing.
However, despite the backlash from the media, previous cast members and Twitter, game development of Hogwarts Legacy kept chugging along.
Chicka 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 toot toot.
With a growing level of excitement from the quote-unquote normies, who, funnily enough, seem to be the target audience of this massive IP.
Yeah, go figure.
2022 opened with the 20th anniversary of the Harry Potter series, and a notable exclusion from the lineup of people being interviewed on this 20th anniversary celebration was J.K. Rowling. Once again, her absence from the 20th anniversary special was touted as further proof that she should not be involved in
anything
Harry Potter related, including the upcoming game. The articles calling for boycott and attacks on J.K. Rowling continued throughout the year. However, it seemed only the most passionate on the matter of transphobia were active on Twitter around the subject of Hogwarts Legacy. As for the quote-unquote normies, they were expressing their excitement and speculation on the Hogwarts Legacy gameplay trailer, where on the 18th of March 2022, there was barely a mention of the ideological battle surrounding the upcoming game. Well, apart from the classic gamer comments, of course. However, on the 14th of October, the fans of Harry Potter as a franchise were met with some very grim news. Robbie Coltrane had passed away. Now, I'm about to say something very important. I don't care what your preferences are, how you vote, what you look like, or where you come from. The first rule of the Sheltered Harbour is don't be a dickhead. A subset of that rule, which is heavily implied, is be a good human. Despite popular belief, being a good human is possible, even when you disagree on subjects that are fundamentally important to your views and how you perceive the world. The list of what makes a good human is exhaustive, but a good rule of thumb is treat others how you would like to be treated, and if you don't have anything nice to say about a person, don't say anything at all. We learned this at a very young age, and despite its idealism and naivety, it's a nice sentiment. What happened on Twitter in the wake of Robbie Coltrane's death is disgusting. Some people all but celebrated his passing as a victory against J.K. Rowling. This is like Voldemort parading a corpse to prove a point. It's vile, and while I'm sure this is the absolute worst sampling of people from the LGBTQIA+ community, their life preferences should not protect them from this sort of abhorrent behaviour. And yet, despite this horrible demonstration and utter lack of respect for the dead, the mainstream media said nothing about it. That's what fear looks like. That's what mob cancel culture mentality causes. A redaction of the facts because people are too scared of being caught on the wrong side of the fence. For me, this is a step too far. Regardless of how important you have assessed your cause to be, you do not celebrate an actor's death because they showed support to someone who disagrees with your ideology. Even if they, and that's a big if, were somehow worse than a 1940s high-fiving dictator, do you really think acting like this is going to sway anybody to see things from your point of view? Do you really want to be associated with a group of people that have no respect for the dead? Moving on. With Twitter now not proving an effective front to push the boycott, a change in tactics eventuated when Hogwarts Legacy dropped another trailer in August and became available for pre-order on Steam. The game was subsequently mass flagged with incorrect tags including transphobic, not safe for work, evil protagonist, and genocide simulator. Now, I don't know how well the folk that opposed Hogwarts Legacy know modern gamers, but the last 3 tags would have probably had the opposite effect on most modern gamers. Anyway, the final shot at Hogwarts Legacy that gained any sufficient traction to escape the toxic sea of Twitter was a post in December by Jessie Earl. Hardly a strategic strike and more of an appeal to the quote-unquote good people of Twitter, but her sentiments amounted to, "It's okay to have liked Harry Potter before, but now if you buy Hogwarts Legacy, you are attacking trans people." The irony of what I'm about to say is not lost on me, because much like other tweets posted earlier in the year, the final act of this boycott could have been simply passed by without much notice from anyone outside the Twitter echo chamber. Naturally, as soon as J.K. Rowling commented on Jessie Earl's post, it was on for young and old once more. Sidebar, my opinion on J.K. Rowling aside, this is a next level burn. The interaction on Earl's post naturally spawned additional mainstream and access media articles, claiming that J.K. Rowling was once again attacking trans people. Remind me, where was the reporting on what happened post Robbie Coltrane's death again?
No data available.
Interesting. So here we are, arriving in 2023 with Hogwarts Legacy due to release. The pot has well and truly been stirred. The game is enjoying exceptional pre-sales despite the cancellation campaign, and there is only a small window of time for the opposers of Hogwarts Legacy to ensure that the game is sufficiently boycotted. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, but as a tactician and strategist, how on earth could you have looked at your position in opposition to Hogwarts Legacy in January 2023 and still believe that you could have stopped the game being released and enjoyed by the insurmountable wave of quote-unquote normies who never found out about the campaign or never cared? It is at this moment that I say this is an odd hill to choose to die on. Don't get me wrong, if Hogwarts Legacy had somehow been successfully boycotted, it would have been one hell of a scalp. But there's aiming high and
sheer fucking hubris.
The cultural significance of the Potterverse, and by extension J.K. Rowling, cannot be overstated. There would have been people waiting 2 decades to get their hands on a game like Hogwarts Legacy. That said, a number of streamers and review sites flat out refused to review or stream Hogwarts Legacy because of its association with J.K. Rowling. And once again in hindsight, it is easy to see why. IGN's review, after the initial reluctance they demonstrated, attempted to review the game with a straight bat, acknowledging J.K. Rowling's views, but then clearly defining that they were reviewing the game for the fun factor, including the student life element that many fans had been waiting for. This review was met by a swath of other journalists, quote-unquote, who took issue with the company reviewing the game on its own merits and separating the art from the artist. Imagine that, a product being reviewed in 2023 with clearly established criteria and not allowing all the pseudoscience and controversy surrounding the politics of the game get in the way of the review. So, now we had major review sites praising the game, for the most part, many streamers vowing to boycott the game, and a fresh surge of interest on Twitter. But, much like the inception of the atom bomb in the Second World War, at a time of total desperation, there was one final weapon to be developed and employed against Hogwarts Legacy.
A weapon to surpass Metal Gear.
The site HaveTheyStreamedThatWizardGame.com appeared on Twitter on the 2nd of February 23. The website allowed you to link your Twitch account and see who was streaming Hogwarts Legacy. The intent was for users to target those playing the game with harassment and make them stop. Even streamers that were self-identified allies of the LGBTQIA+ community.
I feel like a lot of people who are coming in I've literally never seen before, and saying that they're like unfollowing.
It's a video game, you guys. We make video game comedy videos. Don't you think maybe we might have something to say that aligns with your feelings on it?
Yeah, you're not even giving us a chance to even.
Yeah, you're just coming in and being a fucking weirdo. Come on now. It's a fucking video game.
1 hour later.
A video game, and she didn't fucking sit down and make this game herself, and I'm not even sure if every single copy, like, any money goes to her. We've expressed millions of times, fuck her. Harry Potter is a big franchise. It's not going away, like, no matter what you do. And I know that this is like a loud vocal minority on Twitter and stuff, but like, I think maybe you need to like touch grass and go outside. Like, there's way other more important things you could be like spending your energy doing than coming into this stream and attacking two allies who are doing their job to provide our opinions on this situation and on this game.
But it almost like sucks even more than the Last of Us situation, because like those are the people that I admire attacking us.
I don't know, man. There's like this super alt-left group of people who just like, I don't know, they're like, just can't, they don't care any good you've done at all. It's like one little slip up and now it's like whatever. I'm almost like thinking of just like either going offline or like, I'm barely into the second combat here, and every time I look at chat, it's just the conversation is just like
maybe we can do like
bothering me.
Be right back, like a little break or something.
You can take a break if you want. I'll just stop talking and I'll just go fight and do the combat. Y'all done did it now. You did it now. Gaming Circle Jerk, look what you've done. You know. You started a fake movement, and then you triggered a bunch of alt-right gamers, and then the alt-left gamers got a hold of it, and now it's fucking turned into a whole big real thing.
Also, can I just point out that it's kind of funny that the website, which has now been taken down, treated Hogwarts Legacy like he who must not be named. As if saying the name Hogwarts Legacy was just going to make J.K. Rowling appear and then use an unforgivable curse on you. That said, the level of construction that went into this tool of targeted bullying is pretty wild, and if this was all done in some sort of attempt to further the progressive agenda, it's done more harm than good. Like, this will literally be used as a reference in future cases of cyberbullying. Anyway, the game finally released in mid-February, and regardless of your stance on the controversy surrounding Hogwarts Legacy, it became the #1 single-player game streamed on Twitch ever, climbed the best-selling charts on Steam, and anecdotally, it was sold out of all my local video game vendors within the first weekend. It seems, despite the absolute sea of toxicity that was created around the game on Twitter, attacks on streamers and calls for boycotts, the Harry Potter normies couldn't wait to dive headfirst into the magical world once more. And that's where we're at. Of course, now the hot take is talking about how the game is really good objectively, and how fun it is, but how it's not okay, in socio-political terms, to like the game for any reason. How has video game journalism reached this point? Now, my views on J.K. Rowling aside, this is one of those cases where it is absolutely okay to separate the art from the artist. Namely because J.K. Rowling had two parts of stuff all to do with the development of Hogwarts Legacy. But even without that fact, it's okay to enjoy someone's work and not agree with their worldviews. An example, I think Tom Cruise's worldviews are pretty warped. He's got some very questionable religious views. but god damn it do I love his movies. Watching Top Gun 2 and enjoying it doesn't make me a Scientologist any more than standing in a garage makes me a car. There is enough actual evil in the world that you don't need to go diving into Harry Potter to find it. In fact, you need look no further than your own pocket that is probably holding a phone that had its resources mined in some remote part of the world by slaves. Does wearing clothes and owning a phone make you a bad person? No. What you choose to do with that phone could make you a bad person, say parading someone's corpse in the name of a socio-political vendetta. But you get the point. Buying and playing Hogwarts Legacy does not make you a bad person. Hell, I bet more than half of the normies bought the game blissfully unaware of the culture war surrounding it. And how I envy them. That said, the conflict has brought out the absolute worst from both sides of the political spectrum, with one side bullying people for even contemplating touching the game, and the other side owning the lefties, quote unquote, by buying the game and playing it to prove a point. However, the vast majority of players just want escapism, to go back to a time in their life when they were happy, when things were magical, and they dreamed of one day getting that letter in the mail. Funnily enough, this is what games and gaming journalism used to excel at. Gaming journalism used to be fun, irreverent, and sometimes downright silly.
No! Objection! You did not keep forward motion!
Playing a game was often just as fun as reading and ingesting all the media in the lead up to the game's launch. God, I miss 2007. I haven't forgotten you, Halo. Escapism now is fast becoming a old memory, which is ridiculous given that technology is better placed than ever to serve as a vehicle for us to escape the lows of the real world. But to escape now, you have to wade through a sea of toxicity on social media for the privilege, and that's assuming you're not stonewalled by a 4GB update when you get there. And I think that's a big part of why Hogwarts Legacy has succeeded despite all the controversy. People are sick of reality. Social media bombards the senses daily with bad news, marketing, and unsolicited opinions about how you're the worst person in history for even contemplating playing that wizarding game. But once you've waded through all the meta, there you are at Hogwarts. And it's just like you always dreamed of. It looks amazing. The interiors, the vistas, the spells, the halls, the owls, the Leviosa. Maybe I should actually do a review of the game. I am really enjoying it. Yes, I've played it. I needed to do it for research, but mostly for escapism. Playing Hogwarts Legacy does not make you a bad human, and so long as you're treating others with dignity and respect, it shouldn't matter what you're doing for your own escapism. And if you're bullying streamers who are donating to a charity that you allegedly support, you probably should take a good hard look at yourself. As for my opinion on the controversy, I think I've made it reasonably clear throughout the video, but to tie a pretty ribbon on it, I think everyone should be a little bit more idyllic and naive. Be a good human and treat others how you'd like to be treated. This is always easier said than done, namely because of how humankind has evolved and been educated to understand the world as binary opposition. In fact, modern politics depends on that us and them mentality to justify its own existence. However, here in the sheltered harbour, we are few enough in number to treat others as individuals, and thus we can make informed assessments about one another, engage in discord and discourse, challenge opinions, grow and learn. Just don't be a dickhead about it. There's nothing wrong with reaching an impasse as two individuals.
There's no reason we can't be civil. Is there?
None, sire.
But remember, I'm just a brainless lump, so please excuse me while I go pursue what my heart desires.
Herbology is a bounteous subject. Tend to your garden, and it will tend to you.
Oh, hack your bomb.
Hooroo.